This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 233 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Jen, today.
Hi-ho!
Hi, everybody. Welcome back, Philip.
I'm back. I made it. I returned to the land of ice and snow.
Well,
We're glad you did, Philip. We really are.
We're so glad you're back. We missed you.
Oh,
Glenn
thank you.
and I did. We were fine last week, but the show just isn't the same without you.
Okay, well, I'll believe you then. But
yeah, I was paid a lot of money to say that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Wait a minute. Somebody paid you? Wait a minute.
Somebody paid. Who paid you?
We don't do that here.
I love it. Well, Philip, we are all dying to hear about how the honeymoon was, how the wedding was, all that good stuff.
Well, you were at the wedding, Reese, so I mean, I think from outside perspective, I think it went pretty well. And as a party to the big show, I had an awesome day. I think it went pretty perfect, actually.
It was pretty awesome. It
That
really was.
And I think you mentioned this last week. When I woke up the morning of, and they hadn't been calling for it, it had seriously snowed.
Yeah, not just like a dusting. It was like, I was concerned.
We had we had a kind of a major snow, and I woke up and I looked out the window and I just went, of course this happened. Right?
Yeah.
That's how you got to look at it. I was just like, of course this happened. I just thought, well, you know, what are you going to do about it? We had planned for every contingency, including the snow. So it didn't really throw any wrench in our big plans. So, it was awesome. It was the best day ever. And, you know, I'm so happy that it went off without a problem, and that all of our friends, even our friends from Kentucky and out west, like we had one of my wonderful friends from Alberta came, and horse people and non-horse people and family, and we just had an amazing, awesome day. And then 2 days later, I didn't even get to talk to you afterwards, Reese.
I know. Well, that was because we were still asleep. You guys had already gone, and Travis and I definitely partied hard. So we were not in a hurry. There was a lot.
We're hurting the morning after.
It was great. We danced. I have to be honest. I was sore from dancing. We danced so long and so hard that my legs.
You come up to Canada. You gotta be ready.
I know. I should have stretched. Everybody. We all danced. We had so much fun. And seriously, I was sore for like 3 days after the wedding from dancing so much.
I should have warned you about that. And we had so many great friends that just love to let loose and get on the dance floor, and so that was great. And then 2 days later, the Monday of, we headed out on our 16-hour flights and trip, and it was a long way. And but I mean, it was just the holiday we could have hoped for. There was just again, like, nothing went wrong. We went out on safari. We had 4 days of traveling around basically all of Kenya, looking for animals and finding. I did post some photos on my own Facebook page. I think Meredith, at the end of the whole thing, Meredith, she said she had 600 something photos to narrow down to, kind of a group that you can put on Facebook to kind of show what happened. But I mean, we went everywhere. We saw everything, and it was just an amazing continent, amazing country. I can't say enough. I can't even. You can't even describe it. You can't even put into words what it's like to see a giraffe or an elephant and just be like. I mean, you get up really close to these animals. They're not domesticated by any means, but they're kind of used to people kind of driving around and looking at them. And we have some photos there, and there's a kind of a pride of lions, and we almost you can almost drive right over them. They kind of lie in the grass, and they don't really. I mean, I guess they're the apex of the predators. They don't really care that you're around. They're not threatened by people too much, and they just laze around, and you could just check them out and take. I mean, we didn't dare, leave the comfort of the vehicle. But
is that comfort or is that safety? Phil?
Yeah.
You mean safety of the vehicle?
Well, actually, we had a driver who drove us around for 4 days, and he put the child safety locks on.
That was probably a good idea
guy.
for you.
Yeah, and I'm like, Richard, what's going on? You got that? He's like, I just want to make sure nobody thinks they can get out of the vehicle.
Yeah, I think the child safety lock for you, Philip, was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, you do want to go up and get cuddly with the animal.
Yeah, with the lion.
With the lion.
Where did you go, Philip? Where exactly were you in Africa?
Well, we flew into Nairobi, which was it was cool. They actually a month or two before they had a big fire in the airport. So yeah, it was a little bit of a hectic mess. But we got in, we stayed in Nairobi for a night, and then we were, like I said, we had our driver. He came out and he took us everywhere. We went to one of the parks is at a lake. It's Lake Nakuru National Park. So we go there, and they have these fantastic 5-star type resort places you stay in, and you drive around and you just kind of hunt for animals. And then we went from there and drove 5-6 hours to Masai Mara National Park, where this is where the Great Migration happens, and like there's just thousands and thousands of wildebeest and water buffalo, and so zebras everywhere. And so we did the same thing. We stayed there at a hotel resort where we did our glamping. We were telling Reese about this glamping idea.
Glamping sounds, I could do it.
Yeah, I mean, you stay in this tent, but it's not really a tent. I mean, it's got canvas walls and that, but I mean, it's a permanent bathroom, shower. Just beautiful place to stay, and they do these amazing gourmet meals for you. I mean, we really got taken care of. It was, from the planning stage to it actually happening was a lot of work, but it was amazing. So you just go out, and we got our driver, and you go hunting for whatever you can see, and so we got to see just an amazing array of lions, elephants, giraffes, hyenas, hippopotamus, crocodile. I mean, we try and see, all the animals that you can see. And like I said, you can just kind of drive up pretty close to them. And we saw this baby elephant. I think it was probably less than a week old, like a week or less than a week old. He's there with his family, just families of these amazing, incredible creatures out in their natural habitat. Like these parks are acres and acres, thousands of acres big, and you can certainly get lost. If we didn't have a driver, we would have been lost. But he kind of knows where they hang out and where to find them, and that was incredible. So we did a few days of that, and then we kind of needed a rest because it was a lot of driving, a lot of going around. Actually, we were up at 6:30 every day to find the animals and stuff. So we flew to an island off the coast of Tanzania. It's a part of the country of Tanzania. It's called Zanzibar, and it's known as kind of a resort beach place. So we spent 4 days of hanging out on the beach, doing some snorkeling, and just a few days of relaxing before we flew back home. It was we flew from Nairobi to Istanbul, so we got to see kind of Turkey from the airport, and that. And
cool.
Just huge, amazing city. You could just tell when you fly into it. So we flew 6 hours there and then 10 hours back to Toronto. So incredible. I mean, again, I just can't describe what it was like to be there and to see just a totally different world, and it was great. And I should say that we did take every opportunity to ride. So we did 2 rides. We did one, ride in Lake Nakuru Park when we were there, and it was kind of cool. We searched out a place that would offer kind of tourist chair rides. So we get there and we get on our horses and we start talking to our guide about what are these horses that we're riding and blah blah blah, because it was just Meredith and I, and we were experienced riders. So he gave us a couple horses, and then our guide took a horse himself, and his horse was kind of jumping around and wanted to turn around and wanted to run here, and we were like, oh my god, like what is going on here? And our horses are there quiet. They're just plodding along, and we just got to talking to him. He says, "Well, this is one of our race horses," and we're like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." So we were sitting on 3 thoroughbreds, and the horse that he was riding, he had taken out to guide us on our trail ride, actually had raced the week before.
Oh, wow! Awesome.
So I was like, okay, well, he's actually pretty well behaved for being, a racehorse, because we were, we had trotted a bit, we were cantering along, and then it's, tell me about my horse here, and his name was Winter Solstice, and he's like, well, you've got this 9-year-old thoroughbred stallion who had won 9 races, and they had retired him to a life of carting tourists around. So I was like, oh my god! You can't even tell this is a thoroughbred. Well, you could tell it was a thoroughbred, but you couldn't tell it was a stallion. I was sitting there, I was like, oh, and then Meredith's horse was a little bit older, but also retired racehorse. So after we'd gone for a ride, we did a little tour around, his stable. We was excited because we were horse people to show us all of his horses. That was really interesting. So that was our first ride, and then the next one we did was we went on more of a typical trail ride place, because they had rented nearby the resort we were at in Zanzibar. They did your trail ride sort of thing. So we actually rode along the beach, and that's something I had never done before, and that was pretty amazing. We were galloping, again. We told our guide, okay, we're experienced riders. They gave us a couple of good horses, again, quiet horses, but we got to gallop along the beautiful white beaches that just stretch on for miles there in Zanzibar. So we just got to canter along the surf, and that was quite an experience. So we had a little mix of a horsey thing in there that was pretty great. So I think that's kind of sums up our African adventure.
Wow! Oh my goodness! Yeah. And now you're back in Canada, where I'm sure it's snowing.
Yeah, it snowed this morning, so that's okay. I was really, really refreshed and happy to get back to riding and get back to the horses and see how people were doing in my absence, without me. And
did they survive?
Everybody's still riding great. The horses are wonderful, and they had grown 3 or 4 inches of coat since I saw them last. Sure. We'll have to do our clipping and all that. But horses are happy, and people are great, and good to be home.
Nice. Well, we're so glad, and it really was a wonderful event. And you are finally married, so congratulations to you and Meredith.
Took a while, but yeah.
We've all been on this journey with you. It's been so exciting.
It's been really fun. Yeah, it's a sigh of relief, when now that we're back and there's no more planning to do. We can get back to Meredith can get back to her stressful job, and I can get back to playing horses. So that's pretty fun.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again. So,
glad you had a good time.
Yeah. Oh, we had a blast. Almost too much. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. And this week I am lucky enough, Philip, I get to see you like twice in 3 weeks. Oh my gosh. Yes. So we leave actually on Thursday. We're recording the show a little bit early this week because we are heading to the Young Horse Conference on Thursday. So we'll have lots to talk about next week.
Our ninth annual Young Horse Symposium at Hasso Dressage Harmony Sport Horses in Maryland. So that's that's a star on my calendar.
Me too.
Even our honeymoon was a little bit, it worked out pretty well with the weeks and how all the planning all worked out, but I knew from the beginning that was a date that I couldn't miss, and so our honeymoon got planned a little bit around that as well. So
well, that's what we do too. I'm not gonna lie, it's really a wonderful event, and we'll be really looking forward to it. So we'll have a great report next week from that as well. So so lots of stuff going on. Philip, we got a little Canadian news this week.
Well, while I was gone, and this is an event that I normally always attend because it's not too far from my house in Toronto, but this is the Royal Invitational Dressage Cup. This is a $20,000 event. It's an invitational, so it's 4 riders, Canadian riders, that get to challenge for this cup. And this year, the freestyle was won by Diane Creech and her horse Devon Al. Second place was David Marcus on Chevry's Capital. Third place went to Jacqueline Brooks on De Niro, and fourth place went to Evie Strasser. Sorry, Evie. And Action Time. And actually, this is kind of interesting because Action Time had been competed by her daughter in the Young Horse finals, the North American Young Horse finals. She had qualified and competed at the Nationals. And then I guess Evie took her Grand Prix horse back, and now he went to compete in the Grand Prix here and she got a 67.375 in the freestyle there, and that's pretty interesting. A daughter, mother team competing on the international stage, kind of with the same horse, and they're great people. I know Evie and Tanya pretty well, so that's wonderful. So a great show was held. I didn't get to it, so I can't really give you,
that's okay.
You
had an excuse.
In-depth report, but a great show, and congratulations from Diane. She's a friend as well, so that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Well, we have a great show today. We are going to talk about a little bit about the U.S. Dressage Finals. And Alston Kerr, the commissioner of the Kentucky Horse Park, is going to come on. And she's a longtime student of mine and just has a wonderful horse. Charlie Brown, who she'll tell us, he's a Katrina rescue. And we've been working really hard with him for many years to get him there. So it really was a fun week for me. And then we have an update from USDF from Cindy Beamon and Kathy Robertson from USDF. So after this commercial break, we will get into it.
Coach Jen here, host of the Horse Tip Daily Show on the Horse Radio Network. The way consumers interact with the brands they have trusted for years and those they are about to fall in love with for the first time is becoming more and more mobile, literally, and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Podcasts or internet radio shows like this one combine the new consumer preference for on-demand information and entertainment with the power of niche market audiences. Advertising on the Horse Radio Network podcasts allows you to reach the equestrian consumer using today's preferred on-demand delivery system. It's cost-effective and flexible, able to reinforce your existing marketing and social media strategies. To learn more about advertising on this show or any of the shows on the Horse Radio Network, contact us at 859-951-2022 or you can email us at glenn@horseradionetwork.com. That's Glenn with 2 N's at horseradionetwork.com. Come and join the Horse Radio Network family. You'll enjoy the ride.
Well, it truly is my pleasure to have Alston Kerr on the show today. Alston is the commissioner of the Kentucky Horse Park, and she's also one of my very long-time students, and she competed this week at the U.S. Dressage Finals at the Horse Park. Alston, welcome.
Thank you, Reese. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it is truly such a fun story, really from the start. I will be honest, from the very beginning, when Alston picked Charlie Brown up and brought him to the farm, I didn't know what to do. So, Alston, tell us a little bit where you got Charlie and a little bit about our journey here to the U.S. Finals.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're 100% right, because when I first brought him to you, you said, "What is that?" And I said, "That's my new event horse that we're going to teach dressage to." And I think you just stared at me for about, a good 10 seconds before you gulped and said, "Okay."
Yes.
You remember?
I distinctly remember. I don't have a very good memory, but I remember the day that I first met Charlie Brown, and I did meet him, and he is quite possibly the sweetest horse. He really is a doll, and he's just so kind. So where did you find Charlie Brown? This is the great part of this story.
Well, anybody that rescues an animal usually will come back and tell you that those rescue animals are truly the most loving individuals going. And I have to say that this horse, bar none, in my life has been the most loving animal I have ever had from the very get-go, to which when we rescued him. As you know, I am from New Orleans, and I was a Katrina non-evacuee, so I was there during the whole time until the National Guard came. And so I truly know how devastated the city was and the entire region. And so the minute I could get my parents out of New Orleans and get back, I came to Kentucky, got truck and trailer, and put in step-in stakes and solar panels and anything I could think of that would help people regain their lives on the North Shore of New Orleans, which is Covington, Mandeville, Madisonville, and that area. So I just got back in at a time when there was no diesel on the road and drove down there with all of my supplies to hand them out. And there was a man from Bush, Louisiana, who was basically, he had horses he couldn't take care of, as the entire region had really no paddocks or water or food, and no way to get it, and no way for people really to help themselves because it was truly under siege. So that is kind of, he must have ridden out the storm outside because he truly was very sunburned and battered a little bit and scraped up. So, and he had, apparently, this guy had about 30 horses at the same time in Bush at a training facility. So that's kind of where he came from. And I took one look at him, and he jumped over a big down oak tree. And I thought, okay, that's my newest event prospect, right off a Louisiana track. So that's how I got him.
Yeah, and he truly is. So tell us a little bit how we got to qualifying for regionals and going to Chicago this year.
Well, as you know me as your student, eventing is my discipline and dressage is a love because it will help me get there, and I've learned an incredible amount through you. And translating it to this off-the-track thoroughbred turned out to be an interesting proposition, of which it took us probably a little bit longer to happen than we thought. But that being said, Charlie Brown took to the dressage portion. He kind of never took to the jumping portion. So eventually, after beating my head against the wall trying to event him, you all convinced me. You and Lorna Donahue basically beat me over the head and said, this is a beautiful horse, and he needs to just do dressage. So that's when we started. I guess it was June of this year. We thought, okay, I might as well go qualify. I think that's what you told me, go qualify. Yeah. So I just did just that. We took him to wonderful dressage shows in the region and wound up getting the qualifying scores we needed, and thought, okay, I guess I'm going to Chicago to regionals at that point, right?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the week of regionals, because that was a really big week in your life.
Well, I tell you what, I wound up having a grandchild the week of regionals. My daughter went into labor on Monday morning, and she didn't wind up having the baby until Thursday, and we thought, well, I will just keep putting it off because obviously I can't leave in the middle of this. And so we just waited and waited. So finally my wonderful grandchild, James Mitchell Zala, arrived early in the morning on Thursday morning. I was there at 3 in the morning and got in the truck and trailer to drive to Chicago at 7 a.m. in the morning here for you all to pick me up off my feet when I finally made it to Lampley.
Yes, that's true. And it was really wonderful. And we have to give a shout out to Virginia, your daughter, who is also a wonderful rider and has been a longtime student of mine as well. And she was the most supportive and has been very supportive through this. She said, Mom, you're going. So it was great. And we were all cheering her on in labor from Chicago for sure. So we qualified. You beat 47 in Chicago. It was it was actually a very kind of nerve-wracking day for me, for sure. You were very cool and calm, I will say, but I could see the scores were coming in and we kept winning. So that was pretty wonderful to see you win and do your victory lap. So we're going to fast forward a little bit to last week to the U.S. finals. So tell us a little bit about your experience as a competitor at the finals.
Well, can I backtrack just a second here
Sure.
and say that at the semifinals, at the regionals, for all the other people out there listening to this broadcast, I do take instruction well. I really try to get it. But without a doubt, I can tell you that when I like the test, nobody else likes it. And when I don't like it, everybody else likes it. So, everybody just needs to keep working on what they're doing. And I think I'm finally understanding what it is that I need to do. It is a journey that you go on. But truly, to be told I qualified for the first ever U.S. Dressage finals, and they happen to be in my backyard at a place that is near and dear to my heart, I thought, okay, here I go. I'm gonna get there. So we did.
Absolutely. And last week was an interesting week. It was we had rain on Thursday, and we took him to the horse park on Friday, and we schooled. So tell us a little bit about your test, your warm up test.
Well, I have to say, for anybody that was warming up, and they did a I guess, what would you call it? It's a regional show along with the national finals and some open classes. So that was beneficial to both of us in that we could at least ride the test. But it turned out to be probably one of the coldest and windiest days of the season so far. And so you were kind of buffeted around that arena so much that you couldn't even hear the bell of the judge go off, and they had to wave out the window. But it gave us a chance to get in there and practice figures. I can say I at least know my geometry, so I attempt to make that at least excellent. If everything else goes wrong, at least I know that my circles are circles, and what I'm supposed to be doing is a part of the geometry. So
it was very good.
It was great to be able to get in there and ride that test before Sunday morning.
And it was a very, very cold and windy day. And actually one of the judges put in her blogs, and I thought was really interesting, is she said, if you're going to ride in a show in November in Kentucky, ride in all kinds of weather. And it rained on Thursday. It was cold and windy on Saturday and Friday. So it was interesting to think about that. Our horses, being from, Charlie being the local man, is pretty used to it, but it's the first part of our season, like you were saying, where it's gotten cold and windy. So tell us a little bit about your test on Sunday. How did that go?
Well, I tell you what, you kind of know my humor on Sunday morning to be the first ride in at a national championship, certainly where there's no marks on the ground and everybody's had to get up and it's a very cold morning. I thought, okay, to be the first one in, I thought, well, do what you can. I have to say that in Charlie Brown's case, to his credit, he did as good a job as could at that point, and I think probably the scores that we got were reflective of the test we put in. I won't say that it was his best. He stumbled when he came in, he stumbled at the halt coming in, and so that kind of a little bit set the tone. I'm not quite too sure why we stumbled, but we did. So we went on. I have to say, truly, I felt like he was as steady Eddie as you can ask at a training level, and he certainly performed all the movements that he needed to do in the best. He's not a real flashy horse in his gait, but he is very steady, and he certainly gives you 110%. So we went through the movements, but I have to say I was really glad coming down the center line to end that salute.
We honestly, your whole pit crew, we were all so nervous. I think we were all happy to see you end too. I'm not going to lie. We were all happy to say goodbye to training level test 3. That was kind of a joke for us, was Alston said in Chicago, she goes, oh, I have to ride training level test 3 2 more times. And that was a little bit of a joke for us. But yeah, I was happy to see you not have to ride that test again, because you have it down for sure. So Alston,
the test itself is there isn't enough movements to keep him occupied. I could use a few more movements so that he was really paying attention to it, because he kind of switches off just a little bit. So it'll be good to move on up.
Ready for the first 3 and second 3 for next year for sure. So Alston, tell us a little bit about you. You actually have a very special position at the horse park, and as you said earlier, it's a very near and dear place to your heart. And you really truly have made the horse park the place that it is, the wonderful place that it is. So what was it like? I mean, you were the commissioner of the horse park. This is a big deal, and here you're riding, but you're also playing this other role. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I have to, before I even get into that, everybody that listens to this has to give a big nod to the USDF, because I have to say, for our first time event ever in anybody's facility, whether it's the horse park or another facility, they did probably the most outstanding job I have ever seen. It was truly of international caliber and look. The look was there, the VIP treatment was there, the hospitality was there. They went over and above in making sure that everybody was informative and pleasant, and that as best they could, given the weather, that everybody was treated with what we call Kentucky hospitality. So that is a true partnership between the USDF and the Kentucky Horse Park. And it just sets the stage for the future of what should be expected. But truly, your national organization did an amazing, or my national organization, did an amazing job at putting it together. And also, let me, before I forget, all of the sponsors of this show did that the gifts were gifts galore, and everybody walked away from regionals with jackets and coolers and things that will sing the praises of the first finals ever. And I just know that next year it will be bigger and better. So, if anybody out there listening, they need to always thank the sponsors. They will be in a qualifying position one day, and without the sponsors, we wouldn't be holding these types of shows. And certainly being head of the park, really get that one in a lot of ways. Just easily, the horse park is my passion as a now 33-year volunteer at the park.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. I said I've certainly at this volunteer position spent a lot of money and a lot of time, but there is just something about that piece of property that you walk on the property and you just get sucked in, and you want to help it in every way you can. And I used to be head of the foundation, and the foundation is the not-for-profit arm that has raised all the private funds that have been used within the park. And so many people think that the park is a state agency, and that because it's a state agency, we have unlimited funds. Well, that's really not true. So everybody listening, $1 goes a long way, believe it or not. There is not a donation that's too small that can come to the park, because we truly get it at the park for land conservation and places and facilities to have first quality shows like you saw. But we would not have been there had it not been for the private sector support that joins hands with the public sector, i.e. the state. Because all of the show facilities that happen, not the Alltech Arena, the state of Kentucky committed capital dollars for the arena and also for the Rolex Stadium. So those two were capital expenditure projects. But most of the barns and most of the rings that everybody rode in, outside rings, were all privately funded. So people can't forget that, because the park could not sustain itself alone on just our revenue sources and the sources that we get from the state, although we are extremely grateful from the state. So,
and that is so true. And there is actually a new project going on to revamp the dressage complex, which would be a wonderful thing that if people wanted to donate, that they could do that through the Horse Park Foundation. Is that correct?
Oh, 100%, and the Kentucky Dressage Association. The Foundation and the Dressage Association, and thank God for them, have taken upon themselves to finish what we consider to be the last piece of that park. It's a beautiful area within what we call the main park campus, and they are going to turn it into international rings that can be showcased. And, it all comes down, surprisingly, not to money, okay, and raising money to be able to complete this project. But there are plans that are presently being drawn up. We have the guts of a plan, but now we're finalizing the surfaces of the rings and how much the rings need to be raised and the drainage. But when we're finished, we will have hopefully one of the finest dressage complexes in the United States, if not the finest, when we incorporate into the entire park structure, and hoping that in future years, when the USDF holds the national finals at the park, that they will encompass using this complex for warm-up area and for ring space. So it will be really of benefit to everybody.
It will be. And we hope to continue to having great shows here in Kentucky for dressage and all sports at the Horse Park. Ms. Alston, how do people, if they wanted to donate through the Horse Park Foundation, where do we go online to do that?
I'll tell you what, if you just literally go to the Horse Park main website or you Google Kentucky Horse Park Foundation, it will come right up. And as all websites do, there is a Donate Now button, and it can be done electronically online. And if you don't want to do that, a check can be sent. You can send a check to the address that is given, and the Horse Park will give you every donation is tax deductible, so you will immediately get a tax deduct letter. And then I keep stressing to anybody listening, there really is no donation that is too small, because every dollar helps us get to where we want to be. So that's the easiest way on the website.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and telling us all a little bit about the Horse Park and the plans for the future. And we can't wait to be there next year.
Well, I tell you what, I know that there is a commitment from the USDF to rotate this. So as as being from the park, we certainly understand that, because your West Coast and your really northern western perimeters really need to be able to participate, and it's quite an expense to come from the West Coast. We at the park really understand that. So, we are willing and ready to work with the USDF to see what it is that we have to do to make this happen.
Glenn the Geek here. The life of horse person is hard enough, and we all hate doing the required paperwork, and unfortunately many of us never get around to it, and it just piles up on our desk. That is about to change thanks to the EquiSketch Records app for your iPhone or iPad. My wife and I use it to track our horses, and we absolutely love this thing. EquiSketch Records is the most thorough and complete equestrian records app on the market today. We love this app because you can track your farrier work, your dental, your coggins, medicines, worming, and so much more. And you can get reminders on your device when all of these things are due. You'll never forget a worming or shots or farrier visit again. But it not only tracks your horse, you can also manage your horse shows, including individual events. You can manage riders, including lessons and memberships, and so much more. And you can sync it between your iPhone and your iPad, and all of this for the price of a couple of cups of coffee from Starbucks. Search for EquiSketch Records in the iOS App Store or go to EquiSketch.com. That's EquiSketch.com. EquiSketch.com.
Well, it is my pleasure to have Cindy Vimont, Senior Director of Member Programs, and Kathy Robertson, Education Program Senior Coordinator for USDF, on the show today. Hi, ladies. Welcome back.
Hi there. Thanks for having us. Hi.
We always love our USDF updates. They really help us kind of stay involved and know what's going on at USDF. But really, ladies, I have to sing your praises for the U.S. Dressage Finals last weekend. It was truly a wonderful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reese. We had a great time. Actually, it was a lot of hard work, but when you just see the faces of the people that are involved in the competitors, and you talk to them in the barn, and you see them after the award ceremonies, you know that all the hard work was definitely well worth it.
Oh, it was. It was from the young lady who had the coffee cart when you came in. She was my favorite. She was there every morning with her coffee and a smile, and it was awesome. I have to say, you guys really thought of some wonderful things. So tell us from your perspective, how did it go? And just kind of give us a rundown of the event.
Well, this was our very first event. We did have a very strong organizing committee and event staff that was very experienced. We had Lloyd Lanshammer as our manager, and as you know, he's managed everything from the World Equestrian Games to many, many regional championships. So he's got quite a list of accomplishments as a manager. We had Monica Fitzgerald as our secretary, and again, she's very experienced, runs a lot of shows around the country and particularly in Florida. We also had the benefit of Kevin Bradbury, who brought his horse show office.com staff and all the technology that was just state-of-the-art for a show of this size. So we were really fortunate to have all that going on. We had Deborah Reinhardt, who also runs quite a few competitions, big shows around the country, but particularly in the Northeast. She was our event coordinator, so she was handling all the things that people may not be aware of, like coordinating all the volunteers, making sure they're all in the right place at the right time, making sure they have accommodations and food and all those logistical things that are going on behind the scenes. She had a great deal to do with that. I'm probably leaving out some people, but I don't want to miss, of course, Janine Malone and George Williams, both of who have had this concept in their mind and have worked on this thing for probably 20 years, and it's now become a reality. And they have just continued to have this as a goal for them personally as well as for this organization, and they should be very proud that the ideas that they had and the concepts that they had finally come true. So We had a very strong team. We also had the benefit of having the USDF staff right here in Lexington and housed here at the Kentucky Horse Park that could lend quite a bit of assistance in getting things set up and organized with the Kentucky Horse Park prior to anyone actually stepping on the ground. So really everything just fit together very nicely, and I think everyone was well coordinated, and things were well planned to the best of everyone's ability. And I think because of that, in long hours and lots of time, it came off really quite well, and we were very pleased with the comments we had. We talked obviously to the sponsor, Adequan. They were very pleased with everything. Most of the competitors I spoke with just couldn't believe what we laid out for everybody, and just the caliber of show that they were just totally blown away when they walked into that All-Tech arena and saw what we had laid out, and decor and the whole setup and the VIP area and all the amenities that were available to them. It just blew their minds. And the same, I think, could be said for everyone that touched the show in some way. I think the officials were pleased. The vendors were pleased. It was just a top-notch competition, and everybody involved should be very proud of what we were able to do.
Oh, absolutely. I have to second that, because it really was. And the All-Tech ring was absolutely gorgeous. And it was nice because last week was the national finals for the hunters. And so it was great how you guys were able to kind of just roll it all together. And it really, you walked in there, and I have never seen a prettier ring than I saw that over there.
Yeah, and when if you had the opportunity to see the National Horse Show set up, of course it's phenomenal. There's a lot of infrastructure that goes into that competition, and of course we were able to piggyback on quite a bit of that. But amazingly enough, in one day we were able to transform the look and feel of the National Horse Show to something completely different with the U.S. Dressage Finals. I mean, everything about it was different, even though we used a lot of the infrastructure. So it was pretty neat to watch that transformation, but that took, probably about, I would say, 30 hours round the clock to make that all happen, and it was pretty intense. They're trying to make that transition.
Oh, I can't imagine, but it really truly was a world-class ring when you went in there, and the events that happened in the evening, it was wonderful. And from, a trainer's perspective, but also just someone coming to watch and shop, it was fabulous. So really, pats on the back for the whole event. It really was truly a great event.
Thanks, Reese, and I'll pass on your compliments. And they're coming in left and right, too. I mean, I'm getting emails and phone calls and text messages from people that were touched by it, and we really appreciate all the feedback we're getting. And, of course, there's always room for improvement. We're going back, having another meeting as a follow-up meeting next week. We're sending out a survey to everybody that was involved just to try to find out, what we hit, what we missed, and how we can improve for next year.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think as every event evolves, that's always great. But for the first time, I think everybody felt special and really did enjoy the event. And for Kentucky in November, we had some pretty decent weather. So that was good.
Yeah, considering right now we've got about 30 degrees and snow, a little dusting of snow on the ground. We were very blessed with great weather last week.
We were. So there are other great things happening at USDF coming up. So can we go a little bit for what's on the future horizon?
Sure. I'll start out, and then I'll turn it over to Kathy. But the thing I just want to remind everyone of is that we have our annual convention here in Lexington, December 4th through the 8th. And there's still time to register. There's still time to get the good hotel rates at the Hyatt Regency. Our room rate is available through November 19th, so I want to remind everyone to not let that date go by. But we're expecting actually a very pretty large attendance, even though a lot of people just left Lexington. I think quite a few of them are turning right back around and coming back. So it's looking like a pretty good lineup of education and events. So we're gearing up for that. So no rest here. We're moving on to plan more of this.
So what are some things, Kathy, that we can expect at convention?
Well, we have quite an extensive lineup of education planned throughout the week. Starting on Thursday, we have a wide variety of topics that include some discussion on stem cell therapy. We have a topic on embryo transfer. We're going to be talking about joint therapy. We're going to be talking about all the latest technology in equine rehabilitation. We're going to be talking about the evolution of nutrition. We're going to have a session on sport horses and conformation and how to, pick the best horse you can with what you have to work with, both financially and within the breed that you're looking at. We're going to be having a fireside chat with one of our Hall of Fame inductees with Charles DeComfy on Sunday morning. We're going to be talking about emergency preparedness. We're going to be talking about some neurological issues related to the dressage horse, some lameness issues related to the dressage horse. And that all starts on Thursday, and it's going to run through about 10 o'clock or probably 11 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Fabulous. And how do people find, how do we register?
You can register on our website at www.usdf.org. And as Cindy said, there's still plenty of time to pre-register. You can still get a hotel room at the discounted rates through the 19th of November. So there's still plenty of time to get in there. Lexington's going to be a very busy time of the year at that time, so there's going to be a lot of other things to do. We're going to be offering some tours of the bluegrass area, and we're going to probably set up some information with some self-guided tours. So if people want to go visit some of the local vet hospitals, we'll have some time set up for that. But that information will all be available on the website and at the convention.
Excellent. And
as you know, Lexington's a great city, especially around the holidays, and downtown is always very, very festive. We've got the ice rink that's right outside of the host hotel, the Hyatt Regency. So there's going to be a very festive feel. The tree will be lit by then, so we'll have the big tree in the area there, and the ice skating rink, and hot chocolate, and all that great stuff that happens during the holidays. And there's also, at the same time as the convention on Saturday night, we've got Jeff Dunham, the comedian, coming in to do his Disorderly Conduct tour. So if people are fans of him while they're in Lexington, they might check that out. It's just right downstairs from the hotel. So there's lots to do. Great restaurants within walking distance of the hotel. And it's just a very vibrant little downtown area. We're real proud of it.
I know, we're really getting fancy down there, so it's fun, and it is really a great time to come to Lexington, and certainly, give me a call, or Cindy, we can all help you guys find where to go and what to do, but there's a lot going on. And Kathy, we have one other event we were going to talk about. What's going on, actually two, in Florida this season?
Well, right after convention, we're going to be rolling right into our annual Succeed USDF FEI Trainers Level Conference in Florida. The dates for that are January 20th to the 21st. It's going to be at Marianne McPhail's High Meadow Farm in Loxahatchee, the place we've typically been. So we're very excited about that. Stephen Peters and Scott Hassler will be returning as our presenters. We've had some really positive feedback about their return, and pre-registration is already starting to roll in. So we're excited to have them back.
And that is a fun event. They are wonderful. Both Philip and I have seen them multiple times, and it is worth the trip to go and see those two work together. It's pretty phenomenal. And how about
They were, this will be different topics than what they did last year, and people are always excited to see Stefan and Scott, and so they're ready to come back.
Excellent. And how about the graduate program? Tell us a little bit about that program.
At the same time, when we're in Florida with the Trainers Conference, we're going to be doing our Young Rider Graduate Program. And as you know, that program is geared towards the young professionals that are stepping out of the young rider arena and looking to become professionals in the industry. We have a huge lineup of speakers. They're still being confirmed, but some of the high-performance riders will be coming in to talk to the kids about their life as a professional, how to become a professional, what to look for. We're going to be having speakers from USEF. There'll be a presentation from the Dressage Foundation talking about funding and fundraising. We've got the high-performance coaches coming in to talk to the kids. So it's really a good program. It's going to be an intense couple of days.
Sounds like it. Sounds like there's a lot that's going on. That's excellent. Was fabulous. Well, it sounds like that's going to be a really good one. So we have one question for you, Kathy, and that is, we talked a little bit about the rider tests. The USDF and USDF came out with the new rider tests. How did that go on this year? How did that work?
The USDF rider tests have been out, as you said, now for about a year, and I think they have been going fairly well. USDF would be able to have more of the statistics on how many people are actually riding them and how they're going and what the anticipation is for the future. But we do have some videos of the tests on eTrack. So if our members want to go visit eTrack, they can get a little bit of a sample of what the rides look like and how to ride the rides.
And eTrack is a great tool. I have gone there. If you ever have a cold, rainy day and you need something to do, that is really phenomenal to go. And how do our listeners find that on the website?
They can go to our homepage, and there is an eTrack button on the, I think it's on the left-hand side of the page. You have to log in to get into the information, but it has thousands of educational pieces, from video clips to articles to diagrams on just about anything you would want to know about dressage or equine health and training.
It is a phenomenal tool. Philip actually just asked online, what is eTrack? And it really is, it's for members.
I haven't heard that. I mean, because I'm not part of the, USDF, USEF system. eTrack, it sounds like a really interesting thing. So I was just asking Reese about it on our little chat. So that's cool.
Yeah, you have to check it out, because we also, another feature that we have on there is we have some what we call quick studies, where they're kind of by topic, and it's like a 20-minute guide on a specific little thing. And then we also have some more in-depth modules that are more like a full course that include a quiz, and the quiz gets scored, and they get a little certificate of recognition when they complete the quiz, tells them how they did. So, and we're developing more resources all the time with eTrack.
It really is a great tool. And my students, I've sent a couple that if they have questions on shoulder in or questions on something we did in the lesson, it's a great tool to send somebody to and say, hey, go watch some video or go read about it a little bit. It's very good. I like it a lot.
I'm going to check it out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Well, Cindy, and
one more thing I'd like to remind people about while we're sitting in front of our computer screens on rainy or snowy days, whatever that case might be. The USEF network did some live streaming during the U.S. Dressage Finals, and we had Kathy Conley do commentary during those live streaming times, and they're now accessible on the USDF network site. So anyone who missed the action can actually go back and watch at least an hour or two per day of rides from the U.S. Dressage Finals along with commentary. So it's a great thing to be able to do. It's just, you don't even have to log on. You just go right to the site. Tune in.
Wow, fabulous. Another great tool from USDF. Well, Kathy and Cindy, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us the update. And we'd love to have you back in a couple months again. We love the updates. Well, those were some great interviews. I really love the USDF interview to keep us up to date on what's going on here in the States. And we have lots of stuff.
It also kind of lets you know some of the resources that the USDF has, available that I didn't know about, some of those things. So, that's pretty cool for our international listeners. Can check out USDF.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Philip, we have a listener question.
This is wonderful. A listener, we haven't had one in a while. Well, maybe something off, but
it's just because you've been off, Philip.
That we didn't have it, but okay. Well, let me praise. This is Becky from New Zealand. Here has a listener question. I'm going to try and we got to briefisize it or just make it a little bit shorter here. But let me see here. This is Becky, not me. Okay. I have a young thoroughbred who I do a bit of everything with, including show hunt here. And it says here in New Zealand, you're not allowed to noseband below the bit for show hunter. Cavison is fine, but no flash. So I need to make sure he goes nicely without one. However, my dressage instructor recommends that I use a flash noseband for dressage to help him learn not to open his mouth. What are your thoughts on the use of nosebands as a training aid? Do you always use them with young horses? Should you be aiming to use a noseband while your horse needs it and then take it off, or to always ride with one? If I need my horse to jump without a noseband, do you think it would be better to also do my dressage schooling without one? Thanks very much, Becky. All right, Reese, I'm going to let you take it away here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, we do deal with a lot of horses off the track here in Lexington, obviously. We have a huge population of thoroughbreds. So we do use nosebands. I personally am not a fan of not having a noseband on. I don't think that it's very helpful because I do think the horses open the mouth, and race horses typically can be pretty mouthy guys in general. That's a generalization, and all of this is, it's really hard to know without seeing the horse.
Yeah, whenever we answer these questions, I guess it's a good disclaimer to say it's very much a generalization, and every horse is an individual.
Every horse,
and when you're training and when you're dealing with tack, we always have to be able to, start inside the box and be able to go outside the box and change the plan and find out what works for every horse. So
that's a good
place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is important. So as a generalization, I typically like flashes, or, we've put several horses now in the Mechlin bridles. And they're legal now in dressage and also in eventing dressage. And a lot of my X-race horses go really well in that particular noseband. Again, it's very specific to each horse. But I'm not a fan of horses going around with their mouths open and the bit sliding through their mouth. So I typically like him. And I tell people, everyone's like, well, how tight should you make them? Well, my idea of that is that they should be as tight as your belt. If your belt is loose, your pants will fall off. And if your belt's too tight, it's uncomfortable. And it's the same thing for a noseband. It needs to be tight enough that it's that it's actually doing something, but it doesn't need to be too tight that it's not. So that's sort of my rule of thumb. Philip, how about you?
When I start the 3-year-olds, it's almost always in a flash noseband, again, as a generalization, but I just open his mouth to try and fix a problem that gets kind of created because he didn't have it on. So some aren't comfortable, and if they're fussy and whatever, then I'll take it off and experiment with different nosebands or different bits. I find a lot of problems a lot of problems are created from the bit and not necessarily the noseband. So I look at different bits before then I say, okay, I got to take this off or adjust it or find a different noseband that's going to work. But I do prefer that almost all the horses go with a flash noseband. It's just a piece of tack. It does its job when it needs to, and it doesn't do anything when it doesn't need to. So getting back to this email about the problem about her needing to be able to take off the flash noseband or not to ride it, I would probably, in this instance, school the horse all the time without the noseband, and then or all the time with the noseband, and then maybe take the noseband off to show it in hunters or whatever, and then go back to schooling with that noseband right back on when you go home. Again, it does a very important job. A horse can really evade the bit if they can open their mouth, and and then you get into problems like you said of the bit kind of sliding through the mouth, or all kinds of issues. So I would recommend to try and put the noseband on and to keep it on for at least a couple of weeks to see that the horse can accept a closed mouth, and then experiment with how much you want to ride with it and how much you want to take it off. But flash noseband is great, drop noseband is great, and then by the time they get all the way to the levels, to the FEI levels where you need to ride with a double bridle, you find that they know how to accept the bits, and it's not a problem. Obviously, in a double bridle, you don't ride with a flash noseband or any of those types. That they're along enough in their training that they've got the idea that they're not opening their mouth and resisting the bits, and then it's not a problem. So, and the same thing as you with the tightness. I like to be able to kind of get a finger in there. That not that you're going to create any like when the nosebands are too tight, then you're going to create a sore spots in the underneath the noseband. So you definitely don't want to be, making pressure points and making the horse uncomfortable with cranking that thing super tight. I mean, it's just meant to be snug on the horse's mouth. The cavesson especially, I guess this is a little bit of this is good because it's a little bit of a pet peeve for me. I see it a lot where where people ride in a flash noseband where the noseband is way too low. They've got the flash cranked up super tight, and the cavesson part of the noseband like loose. And I mean, that's just the wrong use of the tack. It doesn't make any sense. And then the noseband gets pulled well over
down
the lower part of the cartilage of the horse's nose, and they can't breathe.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a problem. So this is good that we get to talk about this a little bit because again, I see it a lot. So what you want is that the cavesson part of that noseband, up pretty high. I like kind of a finger or two fingers width away from the cheekbone. Yeah. So go out and look because if that noseband is too low, it's cutting off horse's air. And so and then do up your cavesson part of the noseband nice and snug. Again, not super super tight, but snug enough that noseband is not going to get pulled down by the flash part of the noseband. So that it's hard to describe, but you want it just going straight across the horse's nose, not being pulled any lower than where it kind of does up underneath the chin of the horse, and that the flash part of the noseband is the looser part. So that's also kind of snug. But if one's going to be loose and one's going to be tight, do the cavesson tight and the flash loose. Yep. That's my 2 cents, I guess. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, hopefully that helps. I love it.
That I can see that's a really valid question for somebody who's doing both dressage competitions and show hunter competitions.
Other types of things.
Yeah. Yep. Sure.
So I think a horse has no problem if they really learn and they school in a flash to keep their mouth closed. And then when you're ready to show, I mean, if you've got contact issues anyways, maybe it's time to go home and school a little bit more and get your hands educated.
Yeah.
And then,
the good news there is that show hunters are not required to carry themselves in as athletic a frame as a dressage horse. If you have a dressage horse that can do first level, he can do show hunters. So it's not putting a whole ton of stress on those aids.
Yeah, I think that's going back to what I was talking about. Whereas in the show hunters, you don't need as solid a connection. You actually want the horse a little bit to be accepting kind of a looser range,
a little freer,
and a little bit more free. Yeah, so the horse should be much happier. If you're pulling them around the hunter course, there's a little bit of an issue there too. So, but that gets into a whole. We're a dressage radio show, so.
We'll do that on the next episode.
Yes, the next episode.
A whole different show on that. So, there you go.
Very good. Very good. Well, everybody, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. You can like us on Facebook. Just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this week to allow us to put on a great show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.